It was overwhelmingly positive. Like, yeah, I think it was over 80% were happy with it or even wanted more, which at the end of the day, I think organizations like FIBA and other sports organizations should be listening more to what fans want to see and want to experience rather than what makes sense for us. AI-powered technology, more concretely, for example, player tracking, it's clear that they are changing the way basketball is understood, and this is very clear. I think the next step is to help leagues and executives who are taking decisions to see the value on investing on it.
Is it FIBA's responsibility to make that investment for the greater good of those federations that are perhaps less well-resourced than others?
It's just not tech for the tech's sake. It's about embedding innovation into the basketball culture and really trying to make it as useful on the court as we can. Also as engaging to the fans, as sustainable for federation in terms of new revenue streams and etc. Right?
Hello and welcome to the Sports Pundit Performance Podcast
in association with award-winning sports technology and innovation company Genius Sports.
In this 5-part series, I aim to speak to the people that sit at the unique intersection between the boardroom and the dressing room, providing practical insights regardless of which side of the line you're on. Welcome to Sports Pundit Performance Podcast. Today, we're joined by Alex Igual, the Sport Technology and Partnership Manager at FIBA. FIBA is the world governing body for basketball that, amongst many other things, is responsible for organising international competitions, establishing the rules and regulations around basketball, and generally developing the game globally. Alex, who's joining us, is right at the cutting edge of where technological innovation impacts on-court outcomes and FIBA's business objectives. So, Alex, thanks very much for being here. We're all really excited to hear what you've got to say and some of the insights that you're going to share with us today.
Data collection, coaching software, tracking, officiating. So much technology, so little efficiency. But what if one intelligent system could do it all and unlock the full potential of your league's data and video? That's where Genius Sports comes in. From the Premier League to the NBA, leagues all over the world are deploying AI-powered Genius technology to capture and analyze data. To streamline operations, create richer performance insights, automate officiating, and power more immersive, data-driven broadcasts. Discover the new operating system for sport, brought to you by the world leader in AI and sports data. Learn more at www.geniussports.com/perform.
Thanks so much, Rich. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been following the podcast. I love the way you explore the intersection of sports and performance. So I'm very excited to share a bit of my journey to see how relevant it is for our listeners and also what I'm working on at FIBA within the Equipment and Venue Center, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you again.
Brilliant. Okay, so to kick things off, Alex, can you tell us about your career journey so far? You know, who or what has influenced you the most, from being a basketball player to working at UNESCO, the World Economic Forum, all ultimately leading to your current role as the Sports and Technology Partnership Manager at FIBA?
Yes, of course. Yeah, a bit unconventional pathway I had, but I must say I'm from Spain, so basketball was not my first love in terms of sports. I started playing football and soccer for our American listeners, but quickly I changed to basketball. At the core of who I am since I was young, I played obviously at the grassroots level. Then I played semi-professional, then professional in Europe, in Spain. But also I had the chance to play at the student athlete level in the US and Canada. And I had also the chance to represent Spain in different international tournaments, including European Championship. So I was fortunate to play at that level, but I was never good enough to really make it at the big stage, which I was also fortunate enough to accept it. But one thing that I have to say is that those experiences really taught me a set of values. And I think it sounds like every athlete says this, but really, you know, like things like discipline, teamwork, resilience as well. Those are values that I carry since my back in the days where I used to play basketball. I think I carry them with my work and life in general, right? And it's something that I'm proud of. As much as I loved playing and being on the court, I was fascinated by what happens off the court, how sports organizations work, how partnerships are built, the relationships that you create to make these things happen, how technology transforms experiences. This curiosity led me to study at different levels sports management, first in Canada and in Lausanne. And this experience really kicked off my professional life working for UNESCO, as you mentioned, the International Center for Sport Security, and then the World Economic Forum, where I work in different projects, like from intelligent sports to emerging technologies like AI and metaverse, for example. But it was very interesting because I got the chance to really collaborate with governments, with private companies in regions like the Middle East and Africa, and international federations, among others. And it allowed me to really build my experience and then jump into my current role right now at FIBA here in Switzerland.
Brilliant. I think some of the words you mentioned there around sort of discipline and teamwork are things that will resonate with lots of our listeners. But was it your education that triggered that interest into, promoting those values in education, for example, or in governance, or the digital transformations that you've been involved in?
Yes, I really believe that sport is a forefront industry that influenced by many, many other industries like health, like education, like technology, you know, many others. And also my experience on being on the court really allowed me to transfer those values into professional life. Let's put it this way, if we want to separate it into different aspects, to be able to share my experience on the court and then really create those relationships around business in the sports world was what really made my day to day an exciting day. And of course, having the chance to work in really big and cool organizations like the World Economic Forum, for example, and right now FIBA, has allowed me to realize those opportunities. So really kind of giving back to what sport gave me, it's very interesting. At the end of the day, like that's the core of for FIBA, right? Like giving back to our member national federations and the basketball ecosystem as a whole.
Okay. The role that you currently occupy at FIBA, you talk about values there and FIBA giving back. What does broadly your role and responsibilities in that sport technology and partnerships manager at FIBA involve, and how does that link into the values of FIBA?
So it is quite of a difficult job description to explain, but my role really, I act as a bridge between what is technology, our member national federation, which is one of the most important stakeholders that we have at FIBA, and the basketball ecosystem as a whole, like in terms of clubs as well, for example, with BCL, etc. My focus is really on identifying challenges of these organizations, whether it's performance on the court, engaging fans in new ways, unlocking commercial opportunities, and then finding innovative solutions together, in this case, with Genius Sports, which are a long-term partner. They've been working for more than 10 years with FIBA right now. And we just signed renewed the partnership with Genius Sports for the next 10 years. So really using those expertise within, for example, in this case, Genius, to really maximize the opportunities and cover the needs for the National Federation. So, today at FIBA, within the Equipment and Venue Center, I really manage partnerships aligned with cutting edge technologies into basketball. Things like optical tracking, augmented broadcasting, the whole data-driven tools that can really maximize and create potential for our stakeholders, basically, in very close collaboration with Genius Sports.
Sure. So with some of that technology that's available to you from Genius and maybe some other providers, what does innovation really look like? What does it mean to you in your role or even at FIBA?
Yeah. Innovation, I always thought like how difficult it is to really explain what innovation is and how we translate from all the work that it's been behind the scenes to the actual tangible parts of technology, right? I would say that for me, technology isn't just about flashy tools, but it's about creating real value with the technology to amplify that value. It's about, for example, helping federations or leagues that don't have huge resources, for example, if they do, to still give them access to high-level performance data, for example. It is about giving coaches and athletes insights that were only once available for the top leagues. Like, for example, we can think about the NBA. How can we allow this technology to be transferred to Lithuania, to our last U19 World Cup in Lausanne, etc.? It's about making sure, most importantly, that fans connect with the game in a deeper and more interactive way. We should be using technology and innovation as a tool to an end or to a mean. That's what I believe innovation and technology should look like, in my opinion.
Yeah, okay. And that sort of innovation piece that you talk about, the things I took away were some kind of democratization of technology for the greater good of engagement, be that whether you're a fan or an athlete, is that something that's kind of at the core of FIBA's strategic plans?
Yeah. I mean, democratizing technology is always a work in progress and not always as straight to the point as it should be. There is always an investment that has to be put into it. But, while innovation is still a work in progress, I think it's one of FIBA's core pillars. So we're really putting an effort into it. We're obviously, as I mentioned to you, committed to supporting national federations with solutions to face their challenges and partnering with the best in the industry. But once again, this really feeds into supporting national federations, but most importantly, growing the game globally, right? I think technology allows us to, as you mentioned, democratize access to performance tools, for example, to improve the product on the court, which sometimes is very important, to renew that fresh air within the basketball community and the actual product, which are the game of basketball that we all consume on TV or on a gym or a venue. And to give our partners, I think, which is a very important part, a new way of collaborating, right? Like whether it's through sponsor activations to create, new storytellings with different sets of data. Some examples that I'm thinking about is like enhanced broadcasting, for example, that we can talk later in the next few minutes. But it's very important to accept that we are not there yet in terms of technology implementation. There is a need of an investment. Sometimes it's economic investment, sometimes it's human resources investment, because all this technology has to be digested by these organizations and implemented. And there is always doubts around it, right? And so I always have to give kudos to the people who break the ice and just try it for the first time, because it's not an easy step to make. But it's always important. It's always the first time for somebody. We're working on this at FIBA and the Equipment and Venue Center. We're really working on it and we really push for it. So yes.
So with that investment piece, is it FIBA's responsibility to make that investment for the greater good of those federations that are perhaps less well resourced than others? And, how do you facilitate that adoption, implementation of the technology? And are there any examples? You mentioned something there around sort of augmented video and things like that. Are there any examples that you're currently involved with that really connects, I suppose, basketball performance and the business of the sport?
Yeah, our mandate is to support at different levels. Of course, understanding that each one of the federations in the league have a maturity level, as a certain economic background, the risk management also. Having in mind all of these, we're offering some of these tools, some of the technological tools and advancements for free, like FIBA Live Stats, like FIBA Organizer, or what we're trying to develop more on a package level for national federations. And there is another layer, of course, which is like the augmented reality and this set of data that we're trying to push through Genius IQ, who are a little bit more difficult to offer to everybody. Not everybody has the infrastructure and the economic support to really operate that level of technology. But to give you some examples, and once again, going back to giving kudos to the first ones in the world that they do something for the first time, some of the project that I've been working on, led by Genius, is in the Lithuanian Basketball League, the LKL. They always have this entrepreneurial mindset, and they're always the first ones on doing something. They fully deploy the Genius IQ technology suite of products, allowing them like this technology to benefit from different aspects within the game, right? Like it could be scouting tools, augmented broadcasting that we discuss, and sponsor activation within others. The other one that really touched my heart, because it happened in Lausanne, Switzerland, like home court of FIBA, was the first time in a FIBA event that happened last July here in Lausanne for the U19 Men's World Cup, with great acceptance from coaches, national federations, executives as well, and most importantly, viewers. And once again, this technology was again deployed during the tournament. And the most important part is that this technology is usually, you see it once again in top leagues like the NBA, but not always leagues in Europe feel close enough to what, or relate close enough to what the NBA offers. So it was very important for us to deploy this technology into Europe, and as soon as possible also in one of our international tournaments hosted in Switzerland. So those are the two projects that touch kind of my heart the closest, but those are the first two of many more coming up this year. So looking forward to it.
Okay, well, let's dive into some of those projects during this conversation a little bit more deeply. Do you feel as though things like player tracking, technical data sets, for example, that become available to coaches as a result of this technology kind of make a tangible difference to these leagues and these players that you're talking about, perhaps in Europe, that aren't quite used to operating them?
I'm a firm believer that yes. Once again, I think you receive as much as you put into these technologies, but we shouldn't turn our backs around, for example, things like AI, right? AI is changing the way we are living, it's changing the way we are consuming entertainment, the way we are studying, the way we are planning our weeks. AI powered technology, more concretely, for example, player tracking. It's clear that they are changing the way basketball is understood, and this is very clear. I think the next step is to help leagues and executives who are taking decisions to see the value on investing on it. I think that's the next step and the crucial part of it. Not just for the competitions as a whole, but for potentially the clubs and coaches too. For players and coaches might mean insights on movement, spacing, performance, fatigue, which can have a direct impact on the performance. For organizers, could mean having competitions that are more professional, that are more attractive for other sponsors. All of these through the setup data collection. Making it tangible is about having a real impact, in my opinion, and having those small wins for those organizations who make them believe that investing a bit more. And once again, when I say investing, I don't mean it only on the economic point of view, but actually like how much are you putting into it? How much are you willing to put in terms of people, in terms of learning and education to make sure that you're maximizing your opportunities? So that is what I think makes it more tangible, in my opinion.
I hear you loud and clear. And is that something that you're inherently involved in? So in my mind, these technologies provide data, which is information. Is it something that you're inherently involved in, turning this information into knowledge and understanding for those that use it? Or is it very much up to them to go on that journey of learning and discovery themselves?
Well, I think there is a mix of both. We're seeing a really good feedback with teams around the performance studio work that Genius has been developing, which has been implemented by the NBA for multiple years right now. It's true that in Europe, obviously, you don't have 10 analysts who are digesting that data for the coaches, but the tool is very, very practical and you can use it in a way that can adapt to your needs. Understanding that you might not have a full-time coach who can do that, you can have a coach who can log in and for 5 minutes focus on the 3 topics that you want to focus on for the next game and to really try to digest that information so the coaches and players have insights that can be beneficial for the outcome of a game in terms of performance. It is difficult, of course, for me to be involved. Genius is leading the development of these tools, but it's really crucial for me to really listen the feedback that we hear from coaches, from federations, from leagues, because that's also what is allowing us to improve and to evolve in the process of developing new tools or the tools that Genius is offering together with our support to federations and leagues. So not that much involved into the development of it, but rather on the feedback and re-implementation or refocus of the strategy.
I hear you. With the implementation of some of these tools at events like the Under-19 Basketball World Cup in Lausanne, do you do work prior to obviously rolling that out to run kind of pilot studies, to get this feedback, to make sure that when you do deploy it, it's in a place where people can leverage this information and turn it into knowledge and understanding?
Yeah, it is crucial. And once again, I'm going back to what kind of maturity level we have in each event or one of the leagues, and what are they focusing on? Are they focusing more on the performance side? Are they focusing more on creating new opportunities for sponsors? Are they focusing on maximizing new opportunities for the next contract with broadcasting, right? So it really depends on the context of each league and each region. I think that the process is quite defined for Genius and also by FIBA, right? Like identifying real use cases with federations is key. Defining what data creates the most value for them. And within FIBA, obviously, we have to rely on trusted partners, in this case, like Genius Sports, because we don't have the resources to provide to everybody, right? And having Genius Sports around makes our job much easier. And also because we bet on it, in a sense that their tools are reliable, they align with our standards, and we believe that they are the best in the market. And from there, it's really about integrating technology in a very simple way or a daily workflow and building trust with the people who are using it. And once again, this might be in a form of quick wins to coaches, to players and organizers that can really make people believe in what we're trying to say. So ultimately, like in my opinion, it's just not tech for the tech's sake. It's about embedding innovation into the basketball culture and really trying to make it as useful on the court as we can. Also as engaging to the fans, as sustainable for federation in terms of new revenue streams and etc. Right. So trying to really embed it into the ecosystem, it's really the process that we're trying to implement and to create into these new deployments in different countries.
A quick sort of probe into what you really nicely describe as, I suppose, an implementation process. You know, you talk about identifying use cases and understanding what's high value from a data perspective, doing that due diligence workflow and building a culture of trust so that it can be adopted with confidence. Is that always a top-down approach from FIBA using Genius, or are federations and clubs able to come to you with ideation, I suppose, questions around things that they've seen or perhaps have identified as potential use cases, and then you pick that up and go away and do the investigation on it?
It goes both ways, top down and from the bottom down to the top as well. We have both ways of leading these conversations. Either they come in from their respective national federations and saying, hey, we're facing this issue, and this comes from the National Federation Department as well as the Equipment and Venue Center Department. It really goes both ways, and it's a matter of us understanding the context of each one of the countries to really implement it the best way, to really show them and say, hey, what about starting small? What is your objective? Let's focus in one tool instead of just deploying the whole suite of products and try to maximize those opportunities. It's clear that it's not the same talking with the top national federation, the top one national federation or ranked national federation in the world, than talking to the last one, right? Like to find an homogeneous message to all of these people, it is impossible. So we try to be as adaptive as much as possible to all of them and really try to cover as many of these challenges and solutions as possible. Sometimes, we have the Equipment and Venue Center Department, we have many partners who are covering other facets of the game, basketballs, backstop units. So we are able to pivot and to really find solutions for all these issues. And this is a daily basis communication with national federations and leagues for sure, because they reach out very quickly to us and ask for support on that side.
Yeah, lovely.
Data collection, coaching software, tracking, officiating. So much technology, so little efficiency. But what if one intelligent system could do it all and unlock the full potential of your league's data and video? That's where Genius Sports comes in. From the Premier League to the NBA, leagues all over the world are deploying AI-powered Genius technology to capture and analyze data. To streamline operations, create richer performance insights, automate officiating, and power more immersive, data-driven broadcasts. Discover the new operating system for sport, brought to you by the world leader in AI and sports data. Learn more at www.geniussports.com/perform.
I've read recently about the smart ball that FIBA have approved, and I just wondered if that was an innovation that came from you guys, trickled down to federations and clubs, or if that was something that kind of came to you from an innovator or from a club and federation that were exploring the idea of this concept. And is that something that's a prime example of kind of technology democratizing access to data and information?
Yes, it is an example. I'm not the expert within the Equipment and Venue Center person on how the process really works. I think we have a lot of leads coming in from innovators who are trying to approve their products. These products have to go through an accurate testing and analyze of the actual product to make sure that it's approved in terms of security, in terms of standards, in terms of not altering the actual game of basketball. The Equipment and Venue Center team is doing a great job on doing all of that. I think this is a perfect example on how hopefully these smart balls or other producers of wood floors, backstop units, etc., will be able to help and create the same level of events from the NBA to the domestic league in whatever country in Europe, Latin America, or Asia can offer. So once again, I think the team of the equipment venue center is doing a great job on not doing all of this, because really technology and the game of basketball go hand to hand, and smart boys.
Quality control process before anything like this gets the FIBA stamp of approval.
Yeah, it goes through multiple exams, gets approved or not approved depending on the quality and standards, etc., etc. And there is multiple layers of checking the our level. I think we're very proud of the branding that we built around the equipment venue center with the FIBA approved equipment. It's something we want to keep going, and we're going to keep pushing for to support national federations and leagues with also some sort of guidance in terms of what would be best for them to use in terms of if they want to host a FIBA event or not, or just it's a local league, but they want to have the best for that specific level.
Got you. Moving the conversation on to something that I think you've kind of alluded to a couple of times, engaging fans and opening up sort of revenue opportunities. This sort of business of growing the sport with technology. How have you seen some of these technological innovations, genius or otherwise, open up new opportunities for this fan engagement and ultimately revenue generation?
Yeah, I think this is a crucial point. Really believe on the business side, technology should be a bridge between the game and its audiences. I think fans today don't just want to watch a game. They actually want to interact. They want to compare stats. They want to feel closer to the action than my parents used to do when they were younger. And I think Genius Sports is doing a fantastic job with the innovations like the optical tracking or the augmentation, in general, smart data, because we can really enrich the broadcasting with live insights, creating interactive digital experiences, I would say, open new formats. And this is especially important for the younger audiences who really consume sports differently. And once again, I think create a value for them. And I think we see a trend in the sports in general, right? Like how we are losing those eyeballs of the younger ones. Try to reconnect with them. It's a crucial step. I think, of course, for the U19, we tested overlays where fans could see the player's name, the shooting percentage, the shot distance, the distance with the defender, what kind of shot. And my colleagues at FIBA Digital put a poll on our OTT platform to see what was the feedback from the audiences, right? And it was overwhelmingly positive. Like, yeah, I think it was over 80% were happy with it or even wanted more, which at the end of the day, I think organizations like FIBA and other sports organizations should be listening more to what fans want to see and want to experience rather than what makes sense for us. I would like to also add for federations and partners, this same set of data is also valuable, right? It allows for more tailored sponsorships, for new revenue streams, while giving fans a richer experience. So it's a win-win situation, right? In short, technology is enhancing, hopefully, what I would like to achieve is to enhance basketball both on and off the court. And as AI and other automation tools continue to evolve, hopefully we're moving towards a future where the competition and the finals of the NBA are very similar to what we can experience in the Eurobasket. So that's kind of what would be great also to re-engage with fans and create new revenue generation.
Alex, have you got any examples of how these new data sets that are available that are engaging fans are helping federations generate new revenue? Or is it still a sort of unproven concept, if you like?
I would say it's the beginning of it. I think data sets are creating a new storytelling within the game. And then we need to start educating people on how this new storytelling can be beneficial for brands and the actual consumers or viewers. I think it's very important that the technology we introduce serves both sides of the game. If it only helps partners but not coaches, I don't think it won't be adopted. If it only helps performance but doesn't create any value or sustainable revenue, it won't be scalable, for example. So really, I think at FIBA, we look at technology through a, dual lens in a sense, like on the performance side, for example, does it make the coach's job easier and gives athletes actionable insights and not just a bunch of data that they have to digest? For example, on the business side, like, does it create new content, fan experience, or sponsor opportunities that help grow the sport? We see right now on the Premier League, like the fact that we are seeing more and more brands being attached to the data. So who is the health brands, who is the player who performs the best, who is the MVP, and why a brand wants to be attached to the MVP of a tournament. So it is clear that data is becoming gold. It's becoming the new gold, and brands are seeing this as an opportunity to attach their storytelling to the storytelling that we're trying to create with the data. Once again, going back to the maturity level of each federation and league, different resources, different risk appetites. What I really believe it's key is education and showing quick wins once again and explaining how technology enhances performance on and off the court. That's the key. And I really believe that that's how innovation should become and becomes part of the basketball DNA rather than just an add-on. So really trying to find a balance between performance, but also the business side on how you bring value and economic support. It's crucial. And I think really brands are starting to understand it very quickly. Premier League, you see it in the NFL, you see it in our FIBA tournaments as well, how brands, they want to attach themselves to proven data. Who is the best player? Who is the player who run the most because they are wearing certain shoes, Nike shoes, etc. Right? So that's what I see.
So brands trying to create credibility through association. Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. You mentioned earlier on around the due diligence process and the fact that sometimes it's FIBA disseminating information to the clubs and federations and vice versa. Thinking about the brands that you've just talked about, is there ways that they can initiate conversations with FIBA around this would be nice to see, this would be a great sponsorship opportunity or a brand activation if we had this particular data set, and therefore is there technology available to generate it? I've read about your approved software program and you've talked about the due diligence process and pilot studies that you've run. Is there some kind of formal or informal process that's available to brands looking to activate?
For sure. I think we get leads from everywhere, LinkedIn, email, mouth to mouth, or colleagues or friends, etc. But I think for tech partners, I think reaching out to the equipment and venue center is the best gateway. We're trying to evaluate, then integrate the solutions into basketball ecosystem through a process. Reaching out to the email, you can find it on the website, but reaching out and trying to see how much we can help and support would be great. I think also for the fans, of course, the best entry point is through events and platforms like the website and the actual games, because we are showcasing the innovation most of the time in action. But for the tech partners, sending an email to the equipment and venue center would be the best way.
Okay, great. Hopefully we won't create an influx of things that you have to filter. Of course, absolutely. With potential innovation in mind, how do you go about sort of horizon scanning the future? What are you most excited about that potentially is around the corner?
It's a really good question, because a few years ago, we didn't speak about AI. A few years back, even before that, we didn't speak about the immersive technologies, etc. So what is coming next? Who knows? I think looking ahead, what excites me the most is taking the technology and create some value at the elite levels and really scale it to different leagues, from top leagues to also other developing or minor leagues. Once again, I think a good example is Genius IQ. At the highest level, it delivers incredible insights for the NBA, for example. But the real breakthrough is when you see these tools working also in Lithuania, or you see them working in the World Cup in Lausanne. This is very interesting for me. Really excited about the new layer of immersion for fans. And we saw the result in the U19 World Cup, right? Like predictive stats, real-time overlays, maybe in the future, personalized feeds. I think younger audiences expect interactivity. And this is how we meet them where they are, right? Like this is where we shake hands in the middle ground and say like, okay, if you want this, I think all of these really ties closely with the work that we do at FIBA and more internally with the equipment and venue center, which is to set the global standards for the game from the technology perspective. No, technology has to work hand in hand with the equipment. Once again, we were discussing about balls, but it could be courts, it could be scoreboards, tracking systems. Hopefully together they can define their environment of basketball of the future. So for me, future really isn't about chasing this new gadget or tool. It's about making innovation practical and scalable and building into the daily reality of basketball. Like, so coaches, fans, all the stakeholders can benefit from it, and not only the elite.
Technology in sport per se, but in basketball's case, has to be proven at the elite level and then disseminated out to the grassroots levels, essentially? Or do you think it's something that can go the other way and be somewhat rudimentary and serve a certain market and then organically kind of grow up to prove itself in the elite space?
Not necessarily. I really believe that there is a market for each one of the levels, not necessarily covered by the same companies. I see market for a lot of companies, and you don't have to be speaking about the biggest ones in the market when you're talking about covering leagues of 6, 7, 10 years old, because the reality is the infrastructure is not going to be there.
Sure.
But the most important part is that you can see right now, the ecosystem of technologies is very democratized in terms of who is offering what and for what level. We obviously think that each one of the leagues should have access to some sort of technology to make sure that the product is nicer. Are you going to be changing too much the 5-year-old kid in Spain who's playing basketball on a weekend and their family goes to watch the games? Well, I'm not sure what the perfect technology is for that sort of market. When you're talking about first divisions, professional basketball players in different countries, also you cannot compare Spain with other countries in Europe or Mexico with other leagues in South America or Central America in this case. But making sure that we have a solution for each one of them that adapts to the challenges and needs that they have, it's crucial, right? And once again, creating a new storytelling is the ultimate objective around any competition that we're covering.
All those cultural differences, those different levels of standards that apply to basketball globally, would you advise people to engage with their local teams, national federations, if they have ideation, if you like, around what might be interesting to see to help storytelling within their sort of local regions and find a way into the FIBA pipeline that way? Or would you advise them to come to FIBA directly, a bit like you mentioned earlier on?
Well, first, they can come to FIBA at any point for support, and we will be, not only me, like there's multiple people in-house that can support and guide them through the best case scenarios, etc. Not always is the best to test and to prove things at the lower scale. When I'm saying lower scale, I mean like maybe grassroots level.
Sure.
It's true that it depends on your risk apprehension that you have and risk-taking friendliness that you have. But it's true that, for example, we tried for the first FIBA event ever, this technology with Genius IQ on a U19 World Cup here in Lausanne for multiple reasons, because it was in our home court here in Switzerland, but also necessarily because we wanted to make sure that everything was working well, that, it was a middle ground between pro players playing there, but obviously with not the same sort of coverage that the Seniors World Cup would have. So you can scale it down to at the region level or national level in any country, right? Like, are you willing to take I think obviously we are partnering with Genius because we believe that the tools are market ready. So I'm not doubting the reliability of the tools, but rather, are you willing to take the risk? Are you willing to change the narrative that you've been putting for the last 20 years in your seniors women or men league and try to change it with some gadget that can help you increment your revenue streams through sponsorship, etc. This is a matter of how much you are willing to risk or to accept the risk within a federation organization, of course.
Yeah. The projects that you've been involved in, is there one that you're most proud of to date? And if so, what gives you that pride?
Well, I think if I have to highlight something, would be the U19 World Cup in Lausanne. I live in Lausanne. I've been living in Lausanne since 2019. I played for my national team, which unfortunately Spain was not playing in that tournament. But seeing those kids, who are not kids anymore, by the way, are young adults playing, and me being part of the history as the first ever FIBA event covered or supported by Genius IQ technology was awesome. Seeing the feedback that we've received in-house within FIBA, but also from the coaches and from the audiences that they were watching on YouTube was amazing. So I think taking data and we turned it into a different storytelling was something that was very interesting, and it shows the power of one data set basically serving multiple needs at different levels. So I would say this is what I'm most proud of as of now.
That doesn't surprise me, considering what you were saying about the dual use case of performance and audience. If you were to advise any federation, team, coach, player, fan that wanted to really embrace some of this new technology, what would you say to them?
I would like to say that I'm sure national federations are much more experts than I am. If you ask me, I would say start small. Set a clear objective of what you want to accomplish. I really believe that technology only works if it gets integrated smoothly and hopefully delivers quick wins. Once again, I think the quick wins are a good feedback and a good stimulation for people who are taking the risk on getting technology implemented. From there, I think adoption really grows naturally. I really believe that technology should feel like a support system that makes the game more exciting and more accessible for everybody involved. It shouldn't be a headache rather than just something that supports and that really brings something together in a more beautiful package. So just going little by little and maybe not wanting to accomplish everything in once, but actually like just going with little objective that you're trying to accomplish and you're trying to implement in a maybe a more paced speed would be my advice if I can keep one.
That kind of step-by-step approach helps build trust and knowledge and understanding of how to leverage this technology. So, what you're saying there rings certainly true to me. You've shared some great insights. Is there anything to wrap this conversation up that you'd like to leave our listeners with? Perhaps an emerging technology that you're watching closely, something that you're excited about that potentially is around the corner at FIBA? Anything that you would like to sign off with?
I think for the emerging technologies, what I see coming in the future would be for fans to have a personalized targeting in terms of ads and sponsorships, not only having the sponsorships on the court, on the field, when we speak about football or soccer, but even basketball on the court, or maybe the set of sponsorship that you're bringing into the TV graphics or ads, but actually understanding what each one of us are interested on and actually target those ads and those brands into a personalized set of data. So understanding what Rich is interested on. Let's put an example of that you enjoy watches, that you've been searching for watches for the last 4 months, and you're right now watching your favorite team, which is in Switzerland. And so you actually get targeted with a Swiss-made watch while you're watching one of the games. Some of this is something that really intrigues me. I know that there has been multiple talks about this, and I know that there is something on the pipeline coming up at a global scale. I'm sure that we will be seeing it very soon. I don't know exactly the form of it, but I'm excited about it. But I think I will leave the one question with our spectators, which has nothing to do with this specific technology, but rather, whether you're a coach or organization or a sponsor or just a fan like we are, is how do we use technology not just to measure the game? So like, how do we use technology and data just not to measure the game, but to make it more inspiring, to make it more inclusive, to make it more global, which at the end of the day, it's part of our strategy at FIBA, right? I really believe that that's the challenge. Like data, it's data, and we will be receiving this data in a, digested through TV, graphics, etc. But how can we use that more on the human side? I believe that's the challenge and also the opportunity in front of us. So hopefully within FIBA, we can add some value into it. I'm very excited to be part of this movement, hopefully. But that's kind of what I will leave as a question. How can we all do that little by little from anywhere in the world? And how can we support that cause?
Alex, that is a lovely way to end it, with a bit of thought provocation for everybody. So really appreciate that. You've given us a superb dive into FIBA and what you guys are undertaking in the world of technology that's powering on-court performance and the business needs of basketball. I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for sharing your insights.
Thank you, Rich, for hosting me today, of course. And thank you to the listeners for joining the conversation as well. More than happy to discuss with all of you through my LinkedIn, whatever tech projects and innovative approaches of basketball, but not only basketball. So more than happy to discuss with all of you for sure.
Fantastic. Alex, once again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Rich. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening. I'll include more info about the guest and the topics covered in the show notes. Visit sportspundit.co to find previous editions of the podcast, access the newsletter, and sign up for our WhatsApp group to see upcoming social events in cities around the world. See you again soon.